Hey y'all, thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Thank you for being subscribed to my Patreon. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I was brainstorming of what my second episode would be, and I actually already had something recorded, but listening back to it, I just sounded so drained and flat. And that's how my energy has been lately, really and truly. Taurus season it got me bent. It really got me bent. But I decided that I wanted to do something different. So I think I want to talk about dreams and dream work in this episode. And I probably will have multiple episodes about dream work. I also have some videos that were on my YouTube that I have to upload to Patreon, where I talk about dreams. And so I guess this episode will be kind of like an update from those videos, because since then I started reading a book titled Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. I think it's written by white people, Stephen LaBerge and Howard Reingold. But okay, so I be reading books on my phone. This book is pretty thick, but then again, I can't really tell because the page count depends on my font size. But what I usually do is I kind of read the book pretty consistently, and then I'll just stop. I'll just fall off, and then I'll revisit it. But when I revisit it, I kind of end up going over the notes I've already taken and going over the pages I already read. So even though I've been reading this book for months, maybe a year almost, I haven't made it far because it's just so much material. I just like to go back over it. So right now, I'll go to my notes and just kind of read over some of the things I highlighted and some of the things that stood out to me while reading the book. So it says, the crucial difference is that the multisensory world you experience while dreaming originates internally rather than externally. While awake, most of what you perceive corresponds to actually existing people, objects, and events in the external world. Because the objects of waking perception actually exist independently of your mind, they remain relatively stable. For example, you can look at this sentence, shut the book for a moment, and reopen to the same page, and you'll see the same sentence. But the same is not true for dreaming. There is no stable external source of stimulation from which to build your experiential world. Dreams are much more changeable than the physical world. If you were in a lucid dream, your experience of the world would be even more different from waking life. First of all, you would know it was all a dream because you're lucid. And because of this, the world around you would tend to rearrange and transform even more than usual in dreams. So it's interesting to me that they talk about like how everything could change up so quick if you're lucid in a dream. And so I will share just a few parts of dreams that I've had here. Because like when I get lucid in a dream, like the difference between, so like a dream is a dream. Vivid dreams are just like dreams where you're very aware of like what's happening. You might not know you're dreaming, but you can, it's very vivid, very colorful, very like you hear everything. If you touch water in the dream, you might be able to feel the water. And it's something so interesting because my aunt, who's an elder, she told me that people used to say they didn't dream in color, and if you dreamt in color, it was a very special thing. And I was like, what? I've never not dreamed in color. But I don't know. And so I had a dream once, like I was in a lucid dream. Actually, okay, so one that was pretty recent. I don't know. I won't even tell the whole dream, but I realized I was dreaming and I was afraid. So I told my mind, let's fly. And so I flew into the sky. But then the person who I was trying to get away from started flying too. And I was like, damn, they didn't know how to fly too. So I was like, shit. But I told my mind, I was like, nah, you got this. Like, you can get away. This is your dream. You know you're dreaming now, bitch, get away. And I did. In another dream, some weird was happening. And I was being like attacked by this animal. But then I knew it was a dream. So I was like, okay, I'm in a dream. I made the house, I made the animal run away from me. I don't know how I did that. I really don't know, but I just, I think I imagined it away. Like, I literally was like, okay, I'm in a dream. This is my dream. This animal is in front of me. It looks like it's about to attack me. I don't want it here. I'm going to picture this room exactly how it is, but without this animal. And it disappeared. And so dreams are so fascinating. Like, oh my gosh. Also, this is a super side note. I'm a side note type of person. I'm talking proper so the closed captions can be good on my podcast. I really don't like having to enunciate and talk like this because this is not how I talk. But I want this to be accessible, so I'm trying to speak clearly so the captions can get everything. Okay, back to my original trains of thought. Okay, now it's getting juicy. This is like some of my favorite parts of this book. Okay, so it's I don't know what chapter, but it's the section that says preparation for learning lucid dreaming, learning how to learn. So some things I have highlighted. Before you set out to explore the world of lucid dreaming, you need to know some basic facts about your brain and body in sleep. When we speak of sleep and wakefulness, we are referring to awareness of the outside world. Yet, while asleep and unaware for the most part of the outside world, one can still be aware and thus awake in a world within the mind. There are degrees of wakefulness. Lucid dreamers are more aware of their real situation. They know they're dreaming, thus we can say they are awake in their dreams. Exponents of traditional methods for achieving higher consciousness speaks of awakening, meaning increasing one's awareness of one's place in the cosmos. But how does anyone or anything come to be aware? And then it unpacks that. Also, with anything like this that I read, I take what resonates with me and leave what doesn't. And I just wanted to make that clear because I don't think this book acknowledges people who are neurodivergent. So yeah, I just wanted to name that. So it goes on to say, if you're awake and engaged in some kind of activity, your brain is actively processing external sensory input from the environment, which together with your memory provides the raw material from which you construct a model of the world. If you're awake but physically inactive, the balance of input moves from the external to the internal. To a certain extent, your thinking becomes independent of external stimuli. Your mind wanders and you daydream. The sleeping brain isn't always creating a multi-dimensional world model. Sometimes it seems to be merely thinking or doing very little. The differences in mental activity during sleep depend largely upon differences in the state of the sleeper's brain. Sleep is not a uniform state of passive withdrawal from the world as scientists thought until the 20th century. There are two distinct kinds of sleep, a quiet phase and an active phase, which are distinguished by many differences in biochemistry, physiology, psychology, and behavior. Changes in brain waves, in parentheses, they have electrical activity measured at the scalp, eye movements, and muscle tone are used to define the two states. So then they go into details. The quiet phase fits fairly well with the common sense view of sleep as a state of restful inactivity. Your mind does little while you breathe slowly and deeply. When awakened from this state, people usually feel disoriented and you can rarely remember dreaming. And this is also the phase of sleep in which sleep talking and sleepwalking occur. The transition from quiet to active sleep is quite dramatic. During the active sleep phase, commonly called rapid eye movement or REM sleep, your eyes move rapidly about under closed lids, if that's your truth, as much as they would move if you were awake. Your breathing becomes quick and irregular. Your brain burns as much fuel as it does when you're awake, and you dream vividly. And it increases like the blood flow in your sexual organs. And so sometimes that happens to me. Like I'll wake up and my parts be feeling real sensitive and kind of throbbing. Maybe I woke up in the middle of this phase. While all this activity is happening in your brain, your body remains almost completely still, other than small twitches, because it's temporarily paralyzed during REM sleep to prevent you from acting out your dreams. So, when you wake up with sleep paralysis, maybe you woke up during this phase of sleep where your body was temporarily paralyzed, so you don't act out the movements and stuff. But then you wake up in the middle of that phase and the paralysis is still kind of with you because you may have woken up suddenly. So then it goes through the stages of quiet sleep, because quiet sleep has 3 substages. Stage 1 is a transitional stage between drowsy and wakefulness and light sleep, characterized by slow drifting eye movements and vivid brief dreamlets called hypnagoic imagery. So when you falling asleep watching something and you still hear it, but you kind of falling asleep. that's stage 1. That's stage 1. And that passes quickly. Oh my gosh. And them little hypnagoic imagery, like, yo, it be so wild because I be dreaming. Like they say, like, it's little dreamlets, and I'll have dreamlets and I'll be falling asleep. And sometimes those dreamlets are fucking terrifying, and I don't be ready to go to sleep. And like I'll fully wake myself up and wait a minute and then try to go to sleep again, because sometimes my dreamlets be already giving me too much. Already doing too much. So then, so it says you will quickly pass through stage 1 into stage 2, which is bona fide sleep, and is characterized by unique brain wave patterns called sleep spindles and K complexes. Mental activity at this point is sparse, mundane, and thought-like. Typically, after 20 to 30 minutes, you sink deeper into delta sleep. And it's named after the delta brain waves that characterize this stage of quiet sleep. Very little dream content is reported from delta sleep. It's highly regarded in some Eastern mystical traditions as the state in which we establish contact with our innermost consciousness. So reading that, to me, is given that that's when people astral project. So then it goes into those details. And then, because you go in and out of the 3 stages throughout the night. And so it talks about that. And then there are some things that they say you should note. The length of REM periods increase as the night proceeds, and the intervals between REM periods decrease with the time of night. Okay, so as a note to myself, I'm at page 66. Dreamed action produces real effects on the brain and body. And I think this will start my conclusion of this portion of the dream study. So it says, the experiments just reviewed, that I didn't read on here, supported the conclusion that the events you experience while asleep and dreaming produce effects on your brain and, to a lesser extent, your body, much the same as if you were to experience the corresponding events while awake. Which is why, like, our dreams, like, if you have a nightmare or just a dream that's uncomfortable to you, it can really affect you, affect your day. You'll be sad. It'll feel like it happened. It'll feel like if something bad happened to you in your dream, it's totally valid if you feel off because of it. Like, it's not just a dream. Like, our dreams are, to me, and I think this book inspired this thought, but like our dreams are like a visual representation of our subconscious being sorted out into different files and folders. And we watch all these things play out, things that are completely unrelated to the other but all have something to do with our life, whether it's presented literally or symbolically. Like, it's just all right. So it ends that by saying, in short, to our brains, dreaming of doing something is equivalent to actually doing it. This finding explains why dreams seem so real. To our brain, they are real. Although the tendency of our culture has been to ignore dreams, dream experiences are as real to us as waking life. If we seek to improve our lives, we would do well to include our dreams in our efforts. And that's interesting because I was just watching Empress Karen Rose of the Sacred Vibes Apothecary talk about the Taurus new moon, and something that they mentioned was like tapping into our dreams and allowing our dreams to be modalities of healing. And after we wake up, questioning what message did that dream have for me? What is that dream telling me to do? What does this dream inform in my waking life? What do I need to take heed to? And that's why I always encourage folks to get a dream journal. Start somewhere. I date all my entries. And if you can just start by writing one thing every day that you remember from your dream, whether I was outside, or I was in a house, or I was in a stairwell, or I saw water, or it was dark, or it was a candle, or I saw an animal, or so-and-so was in my dream, or I felt afraid, or I remember it being cold, or I was running. See, I'm giving so many examples, but start somewhere. Journal journal your dreams. And I will lastly say some things that help me dream is to make sure that, I try not to eat too close to bedtime, which is really hard for me. I dream anyway, but it does affect the dreams that I do have, depending on how close I eat to bedtime and what I eat. Some people say that sweets give you nightmares. I get nightmares anyway, so I don't care. I eat sweets before bed if I want to. What else? Sleep with water under your bed and change it regularly. And you can talk to the water. You can speak to the water. Ask it for clarity and protection. And as that, your spirits help you to remember the dreams that you're supposed to remember. You can also put some mugwort under your pillow. Mugwort is a herb. You can also have mugwort tea. I don't recommend mugwort tea only because of I don't know how to explain it, but the texture of mugwort, I choked on it one time. Like, for me, if any of I say I do recommend mugwort tea, but have it in a tea bag. Because for me, if you think that this might be a hassle for you. So for me, when I had the tea, and I did it in a mesh ball, but some of the herb of it got in the water and I swallowed it. Mugwort is rough. It's just rough. It's not very... It has soft parts and hard parts, but it's not like chamomile, like super soft, like lavender, super soft, where you wouldn't mind getting that in your mouth, drinking the tea. Mugwort, I would say take precaution because it got in my throat and I didn't know if I was going to make it. So yeah, I think that's all I'll say for now. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll have like the full book title in the description, And hopefully, shortly after I upload this episode, I can link the YouTube videos about dream work. So yeah, peace.